I'm Rich. Welcome to Rich with Cars. If you haven't been to my channel yet, make sure to check out some of my other videos where I do some in-depth reviews of other vehicles, mainly being luxury vehicles like this one behind me. And on today's video, I'm going to be doing a review on the 2024 Lexus RX350. Now, this is my first time getting into a Lexus RX350 since they've redesigned it. It's been redesigned in 2023. I used to be a Lexus RX owner myself. I've been inside of it before, but never actually spent time with it. I want to give you guys an overall picture of what this car is all about. And as always, I'm going to give you guys an exterior, interior, driving impressions, cargo, engine overview. So guys, like always, let's strap in and take a look. The Lexus RX350 was redesigned in 2023. That came as a complete redesign. It was not a facelift, brand new platform. And of course, being their best-selling vehicle in their entire lineup, Lexus decided not to go too different from what their previous model or previous generation was all about. Of course, the biggest thing, and I'm sure you guys already know about this, was the redesign of the Lexus spindle grille, which now seems more like a integrated spindle grille. Where you guys can see over here, it kind of like merges or blends right into the rest of the body. So it does still have that overall hourglass spindle shape, but at the end of the day, it's much more integrated now. We got some new headlights, and now these headlights actually do have the integrated daytime running light in there. It's got some similarities to the LS in terms of this portion over here. And you have also the radar cruise control integrated into the emblem like other Lexus vehicles. We do have some design features over here, which in this particular model or trim level, they're not functional. You do have a parking sensor over there, but in terms of being a functional air curtain, it does not have that. I do believe that the other higher trim levels probably have a functional air curtain like 500h F Sport Performance. So this also has an integrated fog light there at the bottom. This particular model over here, the trim, as tested, is about 51,500. These wheels are a very basic 5-spoke design, and they're 19-inch in size. Everything basically seems the same as it was for the 2023 model year. Now, one big thing that came on the 2023 model was this retains, and you can also see on other vehicles, is the door handles. These don't move. I'm trying to pull back a little bit. They don't move. They're just there as a decorative piece, if you want to call it. But there's an actual button here in the back that if you click on it like I did, that opens it up. This is probably my favorite part of the redesigned version of the RX350, which is this entire light bar. That alongside with the change of the Lexus emblem to Lexus lettering now. A lot of different manufacturers are doing this, including Genesis, Porsche, and many others as well. We do see that the rear bumper is also changed. It's also been redesigned. But one thing that is very particular, we do not see any sort of exhaust housing. So everything is well integrated. It's very clean, very smooth design. I do love these little design aspects. These are like little L's that you see on the side. It looks very nice at night when it's lit up. We have this integrated roof spoiler as well, which adds to the sleek look of the RX350. So starting with the interior over here on the door cards, we do have the base trim level over here. It does not have any sort of memory seats or any sort of additional options or inlays on the door itself. So, but you do have new locks over here. It's still very, very nice at the touch. It's a soft feeling. You have some soft injected plastic over here as well. But the Nulux, which is a synthetic leather, feels very luxurious as well. The benefit of having Nulux as well is the fact that it's very easy to clean. So in this particular trim, we have sort of a beige Nulux with a dark brown or mocha Nulux here on the armrest. I think that's a better idea, just because with so much use over on this area, it might get a little bit dirty. Now, the other thing also that's part of the new redesigned RX is the door release button now. It's not a manual release, now it's an electronic release. So you just press on this and it opens up the door. In case the battery dies or if the functionality doesn't work anymore, you could actually pull on this lever, which will end up being a manual release at that point. Now, one thing that I did notice, to be honest with you guys, I did review, make sure to check out the review that I did on the NX, I believe it was. That NX also had the exact same door release function, the electronic one over here. And I found it to be a little bit difficult to get used to, because sometimes when I press a button, and if I try to open up the door, it would still stay locked, sort of like midway in between. I think Lexus probably fixed that problem, because during my time with this RX350, I haven't had that issue once happen to me yet. So that's a good thing. This is typical Lexus luxury, very comfortable seats. Nice sort of look. You have very mild bolstering, and also at the bottom as well. This is also a Nulux material. I did spend some time on it and it does feel relatively comfortable. I don't know how it does feel towards longer drives, but generally speaking, so far during my time with it, it's been pretty good. The other good thing that I like is you do have a nice little design feature here on the shoulder area for the back. You do have multiple way seats or adjustments. I believe it's 12-way power seats, including some lumbar support over here. So you can just basically adjust it front or back. You cannot do up or down. One thing that I do like as well is the fact that Lexus did retain this from their previous generation RX. You do have an extra little cubby hole over here. So that adds the extra convenience, if you want to call it. And then of course I did forget to mention the fact that you do have a door cubby over here that does allow for relatively large items. You can definitely fit a 750 ml bottle over here, alongside with some additional space behind it as well. We do have this completely new redesigned gauge cluster. It's very similar across all the different Lexus models. You do have some functionality. Of course, I would have actually loved if they did something a little bit more. For example, like what the Audi gauge cluster is all about. But this does give you some information like messages, information. Now, let's not forget, this is a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine and it's turbo. You do have this little gauge cluster over there, which basically shows your amount of boost pressure on the turbo as you're accelerating. As you move further down, G-force, gear position. You do have an 8-speed transmission. That's your, I guess, compass, because this does not have navigation, but it does have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. As you guys can see over there, the Android Auto is connected right now. And then the adaptive cruise mode. You do have a bunch of included safety features on this. It's relatively nice. I think there are other vehicles out there that are probably nicer. I have not been in some of its competitors, like for example, the Acura MDX or the new Infiniti QX60. I don't know if I'd consider this a competitor to some of the Germans, like a BMW X5 or BMW X3. This kind of falls in between an X5 and an X3. Definitely not the size of an Audi Q7, probably closer to an Audi Q5. And then of course you have the Genesis GV70 and GV80. I think that falls probably in between. It's a little bit bigger than the GV70, but a little bit smaller than the GV80. In terms of overall layout, I do like it. This is the new Lexus infotainment system. One thing that I noticed during my time with this, I do like the fact that you have all the temperature controls or your HVAC controls that are basically permanent over there, but you don't have an actual, if you want to call it, home screen. You do have, you know, your navigation, your music or your media. Then you have your different options for the vehicle, like drive mode. This is one huge thing, by the way, guys, that I noticed. If you look around on the middle over here, or even on the steering wheel, for example. There is no dial or switch that allows you to change or modify your drive mode. All your drive modes are basically adjusted from the screen. So for me, that's not a very convenient thing to have, just because sometimes most of the time I like to drive an eco, as you guys can see, but if I need to accelerate off of a light or something just to pass somebody, I have to go into the screen to be able to make that change. So for me, it's a little bit annoying to do that. It's not very convenient because I do have to go through multiple levels or options on the screen to be able to get to that. Then you do have all these different drive assist features, which are very, very comforting to have such a safe vehicle in terms of all the different options. Like, for example, rear cross traffic, rear camera detection, pre-collision. You have a whole bunch of stuff. One thing that I'm not very familiar with is this proactive driving assist. I'll probably put on the screen in terms of what that is, but that is another option as well. And then you have, of course, different settings, Bluetooth, general, notifications, all that sort of stuff. Generally speaking, it's a better infotainment system than what it was before. Of course, they basically switched out of the mouse pad or the touchpad that they had here in the middle before, and now it's fully touch. Personally, I would have liked to have a redundant system where you have both touch and something that you can control here, like maybe like a rotary dial or something else that allows you to choose whichever way you want to control the infotainment system. I do like the fact that they have the starter button over there, and then of course you have some physical controls that are associated to the HVAC, which is pretty cool. You have this for both the driver and passenger side. On some higher trim levels, this ends up being a screen, which is a little bit nicer, of course. Then a cool little thing that I like is how they integrated the trim piece in between the vents. So if you guys see over here, as I'm fixing the vents, they move, but the trim piece is actually in between those vents. So that gives it a nice little tasteful look. You do have a cubby hole over here. I believe this is plastic that looks like wood. That's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. You do have another cubby hole over there, but it's not the charger. The actual wireless charger is down there. So that's your wireless charger over here. You do have quite a bit of space that goes deeper over here, alongside with a USB-A and a USB-C port over there. You see you have an additional 2 USB-C ports over here as well. A couple of cup holders here in the middle. You can actually put this one deeper, but then you can bring it back up by pushing this button. Also redesigned gear lever, which is very similar to other Lexus models, like for example my LC. You have additional buttons over here, which are brake hold, automatic start stop, which is a new feature as well as of 2023 on the Lexus RX. Of course, your traction control off, and then your automatic parking brake over here. It's the magic opening for the middle compartment. You can open it this way, or you can open it that way as well. The middle compartment console cover is a very nice soft touch as well, so it's very comfortable to actually put your elbow over there. You do have a sunglass compartment over here. Now, one thing that I did want to mention that's pretty cool, I don't know why they did this, but I think it's a pretty cool feature. When I press on the brakes, you can see over there that it shows. So I let go, I press, I let go, I press. So that's a cool feature which I haven't seen on any other vehicles. I think sometimes it helps to know when your brake lights come on, maybe to know how you're notifying the drivers behind you. Seems like the rear hasn't changed much from the previous generation in terms of space. I'll show you guys, I'm 6'1", and the seat in front of me is adjusted to my height, and I have a good solid 3 to 4 inches of space in between my knee and the back of the seat. So now we're in the cargo area. You do have a cargo net that comes with the vehicle as well. You do have this storage compartment cover over here. I'm not sure if it does have a little area where you can store it, but now that I look over here under, it doesn't seem like it. We do have a spare tire, but it's not a full-size spare tire in the bottom. In terms of space, I'll show you guys on the screen how much space we have here in the rear. Generally speaking, there's nothing too special over here. It seems like there is a subwoofer right here on the left side, or the driver's side in the rear. You could actually take down the seats. They're not fully automatic, but they do automatically release. Try to release the right side. Getting into the engine of the 2024 Lexus RX350, we do have a brand new engine that's started with the 2023 model year, which is a 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder. This ends up being a little bit more fuel efficient than its previous generation V6, and it does have, I believe, just about the same amount of horsepower and torque. In terms of numbers, I believe this has 275 horsepower and 317 pounds per foot of torque. So it is quite a torquey engine, which is a good thing. That's most likely because of the turbo. And in terms of competitors, I would say, like for example, the Acura MDX, I think still retains that naturally aspirated V6, which does push a little bit more horsepower, which is I think 290 horsepower, but it does have less torque, which is I think 267 or 268 pounds per foot of torque. So the benefit of this, in terms of having that turbo 4-cylinder 2.4 engine, is the fact that you have a little bit better fuel efficiency than some of its competitors, just about the same amount of horsepower, but definitely more torque. So guys, driving the 2024 Lexus RX350, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of my impressions on what this, I guess, redesigned model since 2023 feels like. As I mentioned to you guys before, I was a previous owner of a 2017 Lexus RX350 luxury package. So I'm pretty familiar with how it drives. And I mean, generally speaking, so far with my short time period with it, it doesn't seem like they've changed much. Now, of course, there's a few things that I noticed right away. It feels like the suspension might be a little bit tighter or a little bit stiffer, and I think that's probably because they wanted to make it a little bit better handling, but at the end of the day, it's not really gonna change much. I would probably assume that the Lexus 500h F Sport Performance is probably a little bit stiffer than this, just because those trim levels usually do have changes made not only to the engine, but also to the suspension dynamics. Generally speaking though, it does feel very comfortable in here. It is pretty well insulated from the outside. In terms of steering feel, there's not much in terms of communication coming from the road. It's very numb steering, but it's also very soft. It's not really a car that's supposed to induce sort of a performance type of feel. It's supposed to help you in terms of have a more comfortable drive and more of a luxury feel inside of the vehicle. Brake feel, it's a good brake feel. You don't have to, dig deep into the brake. It doesn't bite too hard. Very easily to modulate as well. The most important thing I would say in terms of a big change versus the previous generation is that 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbo. Now, I'm driving most of the time in eco, and generally speaking, when you're driving, comfortably, not speeding, it doesn't feel that much different. But when you actually do try to, give it a nice acceleration, there is a bit of turbo lag, but it is also a little bit torqueier than what the V6 naturally aspirated was. And I think that that's probably a little bit more beneficial, especially when you're driving in city environments, because you don't really need that much horsepower when you're driving within city limits, for example, but you definitely need the torque. So when you're trying to overtake somebody, or you're trying to make, let's say, an orange light or a yellow light, it's much better to have more torque for the instantaneous power rather than have more horsepower. The other thing also that I noticed about the engine at the same time as I'm trying to look for the fuel efficiency numbers is the fact that it doesn't sound too great. It is, like I said, that 2.4 liter turbo engine. I mean, you're not getting this SUV for, you know, for its performance, noise, or sounds, or whatever you want to say. So the average fuel economy so far on this vehicle is 22.5 miles per gallon, and it's been driven in the city the whole time. So that's actually not bad. I can't give you guys much in terms of handling because I didn't take this car on back roads, or I wasn't planning on, you know, taking it on back roads and, you know, driving it hard. If I were to compare this to the previous generation RX, they basically kept the same formula of success. And what that means is basically they kept it very compliant in terms of suspension feel. It feels very soft actually compared to other vehicles. Now, compared to what I'm currently driving as an SUV, which is the Genesis GV80, it definitely feels softer, much more comfortable. That could also have to do with the fact that this has 19-inch wheels and the Genesis also has 22-inch wheels. But also at the same time, it feels very quiet, very insulated from everywhere else. You get a Lexus because of, one, reliability, and two, because of the valuable luxury that you get, or the affordable luxury. And this basically does it perfectly. Despite the fact that they made a lot of changes in terms of the engine, the layout, the infotainment, it still retains all that sort of very comfortable and very sort of like welcoming interior. So, I mean, the major pluses I would see in terms of, you know, the driving impressions and the feel as you're driving are the fact that you still have that, you know, that quiet interior, very welcoming interior at the same time, very soft and compliant suspension, and the steering is also very soft, so it's very comfortable to drive. The only added benefit I would say is the added torque that you have with a 4-cylinder engine with a little bit better fuel economy. Let me know if you guys have any questions at the bottom in regards to the driving impressions I have on the 2024 RX350. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick overview on the 2024 Lexus RX350. I'm very happy that I finally got a chance to drive it and spend some time with it. Not only because I'm a previous RX owner, but I wanted to see what the new RX was all about. Of course, as always, Lexus never fails to impress. And at the end of the day, they did a great job with their highest selling luxury SUV. And of course, they didn't want to take too many risks, but they had to make some changes to, you know, keep it up to date in terms of the infotainment, a brand new engine as well, and of course a full redesign, which they still retained a lot of the general proportions and general design languages that Lexus is very familiar with. Generally speaking, I would say that this car or this SUV is definitely, or should definitely, stay on the top of your list if you're looking for good value on the luxury segment, because when you compete with some other of its competitors, for example the Acura MDX or maybe the Infiniti QX60, I believe that this is probably a better option. It's no surprise that the RX350 remains on the top of the sales figures. As always guys, I want to thank you for all the views and all the subscriptions. As always, if you have any questions, comments, make sure to put the comments down below. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.